As someone who loves to plan for the future and explore interesting landscapes, I spend a disproportionate amount of my time browsing the world via maps, even more so when forces beyond my control keep me indoors for extended periods. One of my next adventures will almost certainly see me head up to Scotland, and as a result I have been fairly obsessed with exploring Scotland by map. With its historic cities and wild highlands, I am absolutely buzzing at the thought of getting out there and seeing it for myself. The thing that has piqued my interest more than anything else is the coastline in areas such as Western Scotland. It's such an amazing looking area of not just the British Isles but the entire world. And the more I explored the globe, the more I started to spot similarities with areas like the west of Ireland and Western Norway in particular. The more I looked, the more I saw a jigsaw starting to fit together. You can even go further afield and find regions of Canada, Argentina and more that fit the bill. Places I would love to visit and capture for myself one day, but this hasn't been the year for that. These staggeringly jagged and dramatic sections of planet Earth, that look something like my attempt to draw fingers, don't actually occur all that frequently. But what is it that make these areas special? To understand this, we are going to take a dip into the world of geomorphology. This is the study of the evolution of topographic and bathymetric features, or a little more clearly, why our world looks the way it does. Reading into this field of science can be quite the rabbit hole loaded with jargon, with every third word resulting in a trip to the dictionary, but once you get through the waffle it becomes a fascinating subject. So on to our original question, why is Scotland spiky? Let's jump back to our original list of Scotland, Norway and Ireland. The landscapes here have three main things in common: sharp, pointy coastlines, lots of lakes and a sprinkling of mountains to fill the gaps. There is another common thread too. It is the west coast that always seems to be the most dramatic and littered with small islands. Other areas of the world have similar geographical features, but they often don't have all three in close proximity, and as I hope to find myself in the Highlands in the near future, I really wanted to understand that coastline in particular so I could really appreciate it. We can partially explain our western coastline link and the mountainous terrain of these areas via a very real connection they once shared. The Caledonian Orogeny, a period of time where mountains were being built around 400 million years ago. This takes place before the supercontinent Pangaea and is a period where former continents literally collided, closing the Lapteous Ocean. This did the bulk of the work, but there were more pieces to the mountain puzzle, including periods of volcanic activity, earthquakes and geological changes that shaped the area. But as a basic overview, it is amazing to imagine areas that would later form Scandinavia, Europe and North America colliding together to form mountains like Ben Nevis, Curruntoul and Galdhøpiggen. Galdhøpiggen?
Galdhøpiggen.
Ha. That is probably enough to understand the mountainous part, but it doesn't really explain the rest. Mountain ranges formed all around the world, but these coastlines are so distinctive that there is certainly more to this puzzle. To understand the rest, things need to get much wetter and much colder. Be they bays, firths or fjords, there sure are a lot of lakes and inlets around these regions. Beautiful stretches of water often flanked by steep cliffs. Most of these formed in the same way, and to explain we must jump forward millions of years, but still tens of thousands years ago relative to today, during the last ice age. The ice sheet enveloped this area, but it did considerably more than just make things a little chilly. It is important to note that ice formations are generally not static. They tend to grow and shrink while having an almost constant flow to them, and as the ice layer overtakes the landscape, natural erosion occurs where loose and softer stones get lifted by processes called plucking and abrasion. Plucking is caused when chunks of earth and stone break away, freeze to the ice sheet and are dragged with the ice flow. This can result in abrasion, where those moving pieces of stone drag along the bottom, scuffing the surface smooth while also dislodging other pieces of earth and stone. You can see evidence of these by looking for gouges and scratches, called glacial striation, on the face of bedrock. If you have ever seen videos documenting modern glaciers, you may have seen them full of debris that moves with the glacier. And as it melts, the loose stones get deposited in piles, called a moraine or till. This is exactly the same principle. Any remaining softer materials that do not get removed will be compacted in a process called isostatic depression, thanks to the weight of all that ice above. When the Ice Age came to an end, the melt would occupy the newly smoothed and pitted landscapes to form the lakes and waterways we know today. So to sum up, by eroding away loose soil, collapsing unstable slopes and leaving behind only the toughest of rock that had formed millions of years prior, what remained was a landscape of sharp points and steep gradients littered with overgrown potholes filled with water. An amazing process stretching eons summed up in one sentence. So that just about explains it. With a combination of millions of years old mountains and a natural erosion process that stripped them down, leaving behind only the toughest stone, it results in one of the most rugged and amazing looking landscapes on Earth. Next time you find yourself exploring somewhere along the Caledonian mountain range, be it on the British Isles, Norway, or anywhere else that shares these characteristics, take a moment to think about just how much amazing changes these areas have seen throughout these millions of years of development. And not only that, but imagine what a few million years could potentially do to these already spectacular landscapes. I've added a handful of links in the description should you wish to dive deeper. Otherwise, thanks for watching.